Hi, everyone. We're going to allow people to join. We are going to be using the chat and the QA function tonight, just like we did during our last webinar. So feel free to post things in the Q&A or in the chat. Again, we'll wait a couple of minutes to let people log in, and then we'll get started. Just wait a couple more minutes. Megan had posted in the chat function as well that if you have neighbors, I know last time there was a viewing party that was hosted, for anyone to be able to go back and reference it or to share. Megan posted the website in there for you to go back to. For chat being disabled, I'm not sure. We can look at the settings, but for questions, for sure, put those in the Q&A answer or the Q&A portion at the bottom of the screen, where we can at least track those. We'll see if we can fix that here in a minute.
Yeah, I'll try to get that chat feature enabled, but in the meantime, go ahead and use the question and answer for any questions.
And I'm also posting Megan's and Megan and other Megan's, both of our email addresses again for your use. Well, we haven't had anybody new jump on the last couple of minutes, so let's go ahead and get started. Unfortunately, Mayor Fadness wasn't able to join us tonight, but again, for reference, Megan Baumgartner, I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development, and I am joined by Megan Vukovic. She is our Planning and Zoning Director for the city. She's part of my team, and we collectively work on development projects and the future vision and long-term planning of our entire community. So we're here tonight to provide an update from our last town hall meeting that we had, I believe, in December. We had made that commitment then and are still for sure committed to it, that we reach out to the Charleston Crossing community and be able to share updates with the Maple Dell property. We had also, I think, are joined tonight by at least one member of the Fisher's Point townhomes just to the east of the site. And so this group is garnering some interest. Lots of people are interested in getting updates. So happy to have some additional and new faces on here. Our updates tonight are really limited. So just to recap where we were from last time, we knew that the J.C. Hart multifamily project wasn't moving forward. The city was in a land acquisition agreement and committed to purchasing the land in the event that we did not find a project and execute on that project. That in the event that that didn't happen in this certain time frame, that the city would then be required to purchase the property. So we had let you all know that we had hit that time frame. We were evaluating options, but most likely we were going to purchase the property. So middle of February, we closed on the property. So the city is the official owner of that now. If you look on GIS or ownership cards, I believe it's our redevelopment commission is shown as the owner there. But our commitment to really taking our time and thinking about what this development becomes, what this area becomes, is still there. And we are being very, very patient. So still to date, I can absolutely tell you that there is nothing that we are actively working on in terms of a concept in this area. We still get lots of inquiries about it, but again, now that we own the property, we have our public works team that you may have already seen out there looking at the property or doing some maintenance on it. There's no rush, which allows us to then again be really thoughtful about this important spot in our community. So again, we're the official owner of it. There's no plans in place right now. And really, again, just wanting to let you know that if you have maintenance concerns about it, that we're able to have our public works team be the ones that go out there now, and we'll be maintaining that property. So again, a very limited amount of updates for tonight. So wanted to open it up to Q&A. Anybody who has additional questions about the property, any sort of new updates or things that you've thought about since our last webinar and town hall for us to be able to talk about. And I see that Megan was able to get the chat feature enabled as well.
And for all those in attendance, if you wouldn't mind, if you want to get updates via email in the chat feature, if you would share your email address, we'll make sure to also email you with any updates on upcoming meetings or updates on the project. I know that I've been sending letters to you all, but sometimes email is an easier way to communicate. Just don't have all of your correct emails. Thank you.
Have there been any official offers? If not, what type of interest has been shown? Housing, retail, etc. There have been no official offers. So that brings up a great question though. So the process with the redevelopment commission owning this property is that anytime there is something that the redevelopment commission, the city would be interested in pursuing and would have identified a potential project for, it has to be, because of the ownership structure, it has to be put out for an RFP. And so then there's multiple appraisals that have to be done and concepts that then get vetted and discussed. So at this time, there's no one that has the interest to date has been some multifamily, so some mixed use for rent, for some townhomes, a couple of single family developers are interested in it. But there's been nothing to date that is really, really compelling that we've encouraged people to like continue working on a concept. So those are the uses. I think there's some interest by groups with some sort of small retail still along 116th Street, like we discussed last time, more of like a neighborhood center where it's either a small cafe or a little bar that then really is a neighborhood asset. But today, again, nothing else significant has been presented to us. And again, our intention would be, based off of this commitment for the Charleston Crossing and surrounding neighborhoods, is that in the event that an RFP is ready to go out, that we have a project identified, that we would let this community know and open that up. But again, we have time on our side now, and it's an important piece of property. So we'll continue to take our time on that.
And with the property in the timeline, since we have ownership of it now, is there any sort of time crunch that we're in?
No.
Okay.
The funds that we used don't have any sort of tie to them. It was cash through our redevelopment commission. So we really truly do have time on our side on this one. And the good thing is to that point, and thank you for everyone who's been able to put their email addresses in. Oh, I lost my train of thought. But I just saw a question come through in the chat of how much did the city pay for the property? So we ended up paying $4.9 million. And if you go back and look at the terms of our land acquisition agreement, that is the cost of the land plus the carry costs that we were committed to doing with land acquisition agreement terms. Oh, I remember my train of thought. in this existing market of construction costs being high, workforce being low, demand around housing is a little bit up in the air based off of high interest rates. Again, I think that we're in a great position to not have to be rushed to do anything. Question came through about how many participants are on the call this evening. I see 13 attendees, so 13 individuals are on here. And again, the entire Charleston Crossing neighborhood was mailed a letter, and that, again, that's why we're hoping to get email addresses as well, so we can make sure that everybody gets timely information and lots of ways to notify people. Was there a different? Oh, okay. Does anybody else have any final questions? Again, I know that this was super short. Still, I don't see anything different coming in. But again, we'll post this on the website that we mentioned previously. The goal will be, again, keeping on this kind of quarterly cadence that we plan on having our next meeting in June. And then be able to, I would assume, thank you, Tom. Being able, I would assume at that point there might be some updates. But again, at this point, if something does come up that is sooner than that June timeframe, we would for sure reach out to all of you. Besides getting, oh yeah. So with the 4.9 million, again, we have that flexibility now of that money being able to either be an incentive kind of based off of what our previous agreement would have been with JC Hart, which was a developer-backed TIF deal. So honestly, this just gives us some additional tools in our tool belt for finding the right development, and then being able to put something together that helps developers with all of their site costs that have to go into it. David, I'll have to look up at that total cost. There was one outlying parcel that was part of a separate land acquisition agreement that then is tied into this as well. So I need to go back in and check all of that, but I'll certainly follow up with you on that piece of it.
Some couple comments came in on the Q&A. So I've heard of Patio Homes as an idea. Do you have any additional insight on that?
No, I think that that's still a type of interest. And again, that allows for density, but reducing development costs. So I think, again, our goal all along, and I think especially now, is to have a variety of housing types that are in this development. So nothing is off of the table by any means.
And I did get a question on how do you enter the email address for notification. If you want to go ahead and just put your email address in the chat, I can copy it from there. And additionally, Megan and myself, our emails are also in the chat. If you scroll up, or for you guys, you probably just see it there. So if you do have any other questions or just want to shoot us an email, you can email either of us at those email addresses.
Thank you for putting that in there. Okay, well, I hate to use the cliche term that we all use now of getting a few hours back or a few minutes back of your evening. But we will absolutely wrap this up after 15. The city has expressed interest in more housing for seniors and first-time home buyers. Would that goal be important with this property? I do think that the core of our economic development strategy surrounding development is always vision and economics. For the definition of a first-time home buyer is way different than when I bought my first home when I was 24 out of college. I think it was one of my children, sorry. Excuse me. So first-time home buyers, we've done an extensive housing study, and Megan, maybe you can find the website link and put that up. The national housing trends, regional, and then Fishers falls in line with that, is that the first time home buyers are actually much older, and that their entry point is more in like the $350,000 to $400,000 range, whereas much different than 15 years ago, again, when I bought my first home. So it's hard to it's hard to put that limit on it. We have looked at programs to see how the city's incentive can then reduce either the site development costs, so then reduce the lot costs. So again, it's all the economics of it. Senior housing is something that we continue to see a lot of, and downsizing and empty nesters. And so I think all of those uses and components would be something that we'd want to consider in this area.
We did have another question come in on the Q&A. Would you consider a roundabout at Holland Drive intersection? It would be helpful as it can be difficult to turn left out of Charleston Crossing.
Yeah, I'm no engineer, and Megan is closer to one than I am. But I do know that when you look at the distance from the Holland Drive entry, or the entrance to Holland Drive and into the Maple Dell development, our engineering team, when they look at that distance between an intersection and a roundabout, I believe that that would be too close together for us to be able to put a roundabout there. But as part of the previous project, there was a lot of work done around the traffic studies in that area. We heard from a lot of you and residents in this area about traffic concerns, the existing traffic concerns. So I don't think a roundabout is in the cards, but we would be very, very diligent in what the improvements we would require for that development, whatever it may be. Okay. Yes, Taryn, your email did come through, so thank you. Okay. To prevent another one of my children coming in here, thank you all again so much for jumping on here, for your engagement, for you reaching out, providing input and questions. David, I will follow up with you once I find that information on the total carry costs as well. But Megan, any other closing comments for tonight?
No, I think you've covered it all. Thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.